All right, so the Series 2330 that is back from the panel shop and is at the paddock, and it's getting block sanding and prep for paint. So we're moving quite right along, and Aaron's got the side block sanded. You can see where, real closely, you could see where you're getting close to the metal. And then that's how we just want a skim coat of filler just to get it nice and smooth. But all the metal work underneath is done, and it's really about getting it dead smooth with filler. That's where it is. Filler is not used to take out big dents and all that other stuff. Really, all that should be done in metal. What the filler does is when you sight it down the car, is you want a really nice, clean straight line, and that also allows you to resolve that body line. As you can see, this line has to be dead straight, so you can do that with filler, but the body work itself, or the metal work, has already been done underneath. So, and over here, so what we have to do is, what Aaron's doing is he's getting it to, you can see that's a high spot and the rest of it is kind of lower, so you're just kind of evening it out so it follows that line, and eventually what they're going to do is they're going to get to here. This is going to take a little bit more, but it shouldn't. I mean, this is pretty filed down flat, and then that's what the filler is going to get into these little weld spots and fill those in, and that'll come just as smooth as the rest of the car. So hey, and Aaron, you're going to show me where you were at. What did you want to show me on the door?
Yeah, so you actually got it pretty right, that the whole car is very smooth. The biggest thing that we're always going to do is want to make sure that it's, absolutely flat. You don't have any transition from your gaps to your doors, so there's no, what I call knuckling is when it, kind of goes like this.
Somebody just described it to me. I was just at another shop. He calls them butt cracks.
Yeah.
He said it looks like a butt crack. Like when they don't do it, when they do the door,
yep.
If you're not block sanding across, he said it looks like a butt crack. Two sides come in together.
So what a lot of people want to do in a situation like this is they want to put filler here and here, and that's mainly because they do want this,
Right.
But then you kind of get that hump.
Right.
So what we do is I will tape from that end to that end, and I will follow my line, and I will spread filler the whole way, just a little bit. And then block from one end of the car with the other, and I'm using blocks that are probably 2.5 feet.
So you're running, because the idea, and especially with Ferrari, which is kind of funny. I mean, not funny, but there's a bow. It's a taper. Yep. I mean, they call it's either a Coke bottle shape but Ferraris, and I mean, I think all cars do, but it's not a straight line. I mean, there's a straight line on a line this way.
Yeah.
But it is actually a bow when you look from front to back, and it has to kind of follow an even,
and that's what makes it a little difficult, because it's not. So the older American cars are generally like that Comet right there. It's straight.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's true. Look at this. Like if you look at this Comet, look at that. I mean, it's like a straight line. So there's no bow to it at all. So you have, and then the thing about the bow is it's kind of like. It's like what people say, like a French curve.
Yeah.
It's an even radius. It's this radius that follows a sweep. So
and that's what makes it very difficult with these cars, is because you can over straighten this car. So some people will, oh, it's not straight. It's not straight. You have to understand that you're moving with the car. So you don't just put filler here and try and get the door, because then you're going to have this weird shape to it. So,
and it kind of jogs. I've seen cars where I've sighted it down the line, and it'll jog in and out down the line, and it's because they're not. It's almost like you're not taking a step back and sighting the whole car.
It's a lot of work, and I'm not gonna lie. I think something like just doing this side of the car takes me 24 to 30 hours just to do this side, and it's because I'm constantly going back and forth and back and forth, and I got great shoulders for it now. So but really what you want to do is, like you said, it's not here to fill a dent. That shouldn't be what it is. So when you open the door on this car, you'll see how thin that is. That's the edge of your metal.
Yeah, that's what you want to see. And the other reason is because, especially on the edge, is because as the door closes, if anything touches this, it'll just crack and split. And also water will get in here. I mean, it's just all sorts of reasons why you don't want a lot of filler.
And Ferrari has such tight gaps that, you know, adding more than 1/8 of an inch, you're going to start smacking the door off the front.
Right, yeah. I mean, the other thing we work on here is if you look at this, yet, but you can see how even with this, I mean, this is really critical because it's a tight gap, but you want it tight, but you also too tight, and it's going to touch.
Yeah.
So, but you go through here with a gauge and check all the.
And then basically, so we clean all this out too, just to, you know, get all that crud out of there. But we have to wait until the car's primed and blocked to basically skim it. So basically, what I want to do is I want to prime this car as a whole once it's done,
right?
And I want to block it again for final paint, as a whole. That way we know that everything is flat, there's no difference. Because if you take the door off and you start blocking it and send that, you know, to paint, it's not gonna, it may not line up again.
Right.
So we clean everything up, we do the whole car as one. We remove the doors, we remove the trunk, we remove the hood, we do all that. We clean up the insides and reprime inside the whole thing.
Right.
We'll paint the backs of the doors, the insides, the jambs and all that. We'll put the car back together.
Right.
And then, you know, make sure that it is where it is, and we'll paint it as one whole piece.
So speaking of the line on down this car, so we were talking about how you can actually over straighten the car.
Yep.
One of the things of the story I remember was this body line that goes all the way down the side of the car. Like I said, it is actually a curve all the way from front to back. And then the other thing is, how sharp is this line? Because I had a guy who owned one of these cars to go to a body shop, and they made it like knife sharp.
Yep.
And then they painted the car. And from the first time I saw the car that was painted, I went up to the guy and I was like, the body line's too sharp. And he's like, well, what do you mean? And I was like, well, did the body guy see another car? I said, because it was like, I mean, it was like a creased pair of pants.
Yeah.
And I said, you know, there's nothing you can do about it. But once then we were at a show and I showed him a couple cars.
Yeah.
And it's like, not that, you know, you can really tell, you know, it's a feel thing.
Yeah.
Right. So he was too sharp, and he drove it around for like 2 years and then ended up repainting the car again because it drove him nuts. Then you realize. So it's another little detail that you have to look out for.
So what we do to get that is, so I will tape here and I will block up to the tape. And I will take that and I will take this and I will block it down to the tape, which makes an extremely
sharp line. Right.
So right before we go to paint, I take 180 grit
and just walk
the whole line with my thumb, which is actually now, you know, this is correct.
Right. Because you almost feel it with your hand. I mean, you can feel the edge, but it's not really there at edge because it's a softer line.
You don't want to actually.
But that comes from just knowing and having done a couple of these. So if someone, and a lot of times with paint shops, it's like painting is not any different from painting, you know, an MGB, you know, or an American car. It's the same thing. It's the little details that once you lock it in paint or bodywork, you're done. And it's too much money to spend to unless, and I'm not saying you can't trust another body shop, but you need, part of it is micromanaging the body shop. If you're in, you know, wherever, Kansas or Idaho, and you have a Ferrari and you're painting it, it's like, talk to the painter. Don't just say, oh yeah, we've done this, or we know how to do this. We've done a Ferrari. Well, yeah, if you've done a Ferrari, maybe you did a 308. Have you done a 330? You know, or, and they had their own versions, but the thing is, it's just communication. And what I like, some of these videos, what I'm trying to get people to understand is that it is not rocket science. It's hours and hours of labor, but it's also knowing the right information.
It's very true.
So that you don't make a mistake that is not, once it's like setting on concrete. It's like once it's done, it's done.
Yeah, and you know, unfortunately, there are times, if you're going to bring it to your average Joe body shop, I don't recommend that.
Right.
It's just, it's.
Well, that's spoken as a true painter, right?
Yeah,
like,
well,
you know, but I do agree. I mean,
things about like here, most people
don't understand.
They're going to look at that. You know, they're going to say, "Oh, a window goes in there," but they don't realize that the window's only going to come to here.
Yeah.
So leaving this all messed up.
To know where to start and stop, and where the paint goes to.
You know, there's things about, you know, the lines here have to match to the lines here. And you know, this is probably the hardest thing to block because it's so small, and I'm running up and down the car this way. And,
and also the other thing is this line is a scoop.
Yep.
It's a reverse curve. So you know, if you're not familiar with it, or let's say they change the door skin, it's really easy to lose this line.
Yeah.
The other thing that people do is this drip rail,
Yep.
super thin, right? It's got to be straight, but it's a chrome piece that goes around this. So too much paint on this.
Yeah.
And I struggle with it, and I've in the past I've cursed the painter out because you have to chip all that paint off.
Yeah.
To get that trim piece.
The best
to be on
thing
there.
you can do is just not
do anything.
Do anything. Just paint it. You know, don't try and body work this to make it flat because in reality it's covered.
Right.
And it's supposed to be like this. This is from the factory.
Right. But I've seen, you know, again, those are small little communications that you miss by having conversations. And then there's also things, simple stuff like this stuff has to be clarified because this is where water traps are. This is where it cracks. It often cracks in here. Ferrari used, and you can see just in the reflection, there is some lead that was in here. So this has to be, you know, you just make sure that it's good and solid too, to make sure that there's no rust there before we sealed it. So that this lead, there's nothing, you don't have to take it out, but you just have to make sure that it's you know, good to last another whatever many years. But these are all the things that need to be addressed.
That's a good rule. Never take the lead out unless you have to.
Right.
If you will know when you have to. As you can see, we had to right here.
Right.
And we had to right here.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different attitudes. Some people burn all the lead off, but I also believe that it was new steel. The new lead, the old lead is stuck really well to that. And if it lasted 40 years and doesn't show it's lifting, there's no reason to go digging it out. I tend to think, my personal, and maybe people out who watch this video might disagree, but I think that when you melt all this stuff off and then if you re-lead it, I don't think the new lead will stick as well as the original lead if it's sat there for 50 or 60 years.
Most shops aren't going to re-lead it.
I see guys, most of them just do filler.
Because, well, see, we wouldn't. If we have to melt it out, what we'll do is we'll have Sean fabricate a new metal piece,
right,
you
and
know,
then make it really smooth.
Because we're not going to lead again because it's poison.
Yeah,
it's very dangerous.
Yeah.
And if you just fill over that, that's kind of.
I was at a shop that does a lot of lead work, and it scared the hell out of me because like. It's not even the guy who's doing the grinding and the filing. That lead is on every surface in the shop. It is on every surface in the offices. It is on every surface that you bring home. It is on your clothes. You bring it. I mean, because I actually was talking to an attorney's office that does lead, lead lawsuits. And one of the problems is, they get lead exposure because they're bringing home and their kids get lead poisoning.
Oh, wow.
Because they're in an environment, it might not just be bodywork, but it's lead in some other environment that has lead.
So that's probably one of the biggest reasons why we don't.
Right.
So we only take it out if we have to, but we certainly will not put it back.
Right. So anyway, looks good. So the next step, when I come back, it'll probably be the whole center of the car. The roof looks great. There's very little filler on the roof. So what Aaron has to do from there is kind of when he's going to put the hood on, and then he's going to do the same thing what he's done to the side, which is just block sand towards the back of the car and get the whole top side going but it's coming along. It's looking really good. What a difference from the original, from when this car first got here. But look forward to more. So thanks, Aaron.
Thank you.
All right, talk to you soon.